All right, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're looking up way up to decode a piece of hidden engineering that literally makes our modern vertical cities livable. We constantly surround ourselves with these towering skyscrapers and sky-high balconies, yet these simplest, most absolutely crucial elements keeping us secure are often the ones we just completely ignore. So, we're going to explore the invisible urban shield. Because trust me, once you see just how much thought, tension, and sheer structural ingenuity goes into these everyday safety measures, there is no way you will ever look at a residential high-rise the same way again. So, I want you to ask yourself this. What actually stands between high-rise living and gravity? Think about it. When you step out onto a balcony 40 floors above the bustling pavement, you are essentially standing on a tiny concrete shelf, just suspended in the sky. And yeah, we trust the metal railings, sure, but if you have a curious toddler or an overly brave cat, a simple waist-high railing suddenly doesn't feel like nearly enough, does it? Well, there is a whole secondary layer of defense that we deploy to fight gravity and the harsh elements. It's a layer so commonplace, so perfectly blended in, that it practically vanishes into the background of the city's skyline. Okay, let's dive into this. Take a look right here at this thick white rope resting right in the palm of a hand. It kind of looks unassuming, right? Like a standard clothesline. Actually, scratch that. Look a little closer at the texture. Notice the heavy twist and the visible tension just coiled within this single segment of cord? And in the background, you can see coils upon coils of this exact same material, just waiting to be deployed. This definitely isn't your standard craft string. The entire foundation of our urban shield relies purely on the structural integrity of this highly engineered, tightly wound thread. To really understand why this works, we need to look at the mechanics. We are talking about twisted rope construction. By taking incredibly thin fibers, twisting them into a strand, and then counter-twisting those strands into a much thicker rope, you create just immense tensile strength. It's like a giant puzzle where ancient engineering is applied to a very modern problem. The friction actually binds the fibers together so tightly that when you pull on it, it grips itself even harder, and that means this relatively thin cord can hold back massive weights and withstand sudden, sharp impacts without snap it. Now, what's really interesting about this is right at the frayed tip where the cord has been cut. Let's play architectural detective for a second. See how bright white and glossy those tiny individual fibers are? Okay, so they aren't organic materials like cotton or hemp. Those would literally rot away in a matter of months up there. The way they fray, it almost looks like fine plastic hairs, right? That gives away exactly what we're dealing with. These are tightly wound synthetic fibers, most likely a high-grade nylon or polyethylene. And honestly, this micro-level material choice is the absolute secret to everything that happens next. Because it has that synthetic core, it essentially has superpowers against the city's worst elements. We're talking about getting baked by summer UV rays, lashed by massive monsoons, and whipped by crazy high-altitude winds, all without rotting or losing any of its structural integrity. Plus, because it's bound so incredibly tightly, it won't easily snag or unravel if something brushes against it. This isn't designed to just hang there loosely, flapping in the breeze. It is built to sustain incredibly high tension, creating a rigid drum-like barrier. All right, let's step back and look at the bigger picture here. On the one hand, you have that single coiled cord. But then, look at its massive application. That exact same cord is woven into a vast grid-like net enclosing an entire high-rise balcony. It scales up from something you can just casually hold in your palm to a major architectural feature that spans the whole facade of a building. When it's woven together into a lattice like this, the collective strength of those synthetic twists is multiplied 1,000 times over. It's a real game changer. And this brilliantly illustrates the final effect. Notice how it completely encloses the balconies, stretching seamlessly all the way from the ceiling down behind the railing. It takes a terrifying precipice and turns it into a secure, enclosed outdoor room. It's tight enough to keep curious kids safely inside, and arguably just as importantly for city living, it acts as an impenetrable force field against the city's most stubborn nuisance, pigeons. It really is a remarkably elegant, low-profile solution to multiple hazards at once. So, what does this all mean? Well, this is the true essence of structural engineering, transforming outright danger into everyday comfort. Let's be real, high-rise living completely defies our human instincts. We simply aren't meant to live up in the clouds. But this synthetic netting, it bridges the gap between physics and psychology. It allows urban dwellers, families, and pet owners to actually use and enjoy their outdoor spaces without that constant, lingering anxiety in the back of their minds. It takes the dizzying drop and totally neutralizes it. turning a potential hazard into a comfortable, safe extension of the living room. Let's look at exactly how this integrates with the building itself. Check out this extreme upward angle. You can clearly see the Tataplay satellite dish attached to the wall there, which gives us a really great sense of scale in everyday context. But look closely at the raw, dark concrete corners of those balconies. Notice how seamlessly and tightly the net wraps around the exterior architecture. It doesn't sag, it doesn't billow out. It follows the sharp right angles of the concrete perfectly. And achieving this level of precision means the net isn't just draped over the balcony like a blanket, it is forcefully integrated into the very bones of the building. Let's move to and see how this builds. You definitely can't just tie something like this up with a few simple knots. The installation process is intense. First, a heavy-duty perimeter frame is drilled straight into the solid concrete walls, ceiling, and floor. Then, the main net is looped on. But the absolute crucial step here is the tensioning. The installers have to pull that synthetic mesh incredibly tight from all four sides before locking the whole shebang down. Those anchor points in the concrete are taking the absolute brunt of that continuous pull. That way, if someone falls against it, the force is instantly distributed across the entire tension grid and safely absorbed by those deep anchors. So, we've gone from a single, twisted synthetic thread in the palm of a hand to a high-tension, life-saving urban shield protecting families high up in the sky. It is just a brilliant reminder that our cities are held together by thousands of thoughtful, invisible choices exactly like this one. So, I'll leave you with this provocative thought. Next time you walk down the street and look up at a towering city skyline, how are you going to view its invisible infrastructure? Will you just see glass and concrete? Or will you look a little closer and actually see the careful, quiet engineering that allows us to live safely in the clouds? Keep observing, keep questioning, and keep appreciating the hidden mechanics of our world.